Welcome, my name is Janine, and in this video we'll learn about the constellation known as Andromeda. Andromeda is represented as a chained maiden, and it is referenced to a story in Greek mythology about Cassiopeia and Cepheus and their daughter Andromeda. Andromeda is an ancient constellation, and most myths are associated with the Greek versions. However, there are records of Andromeda that predate the Greek civilization. It's recorded as one of Ptolemy's 48 constellations in the 2nd century, which was the authority on constellations in the Western arena. Andromeda is most known for the Andromeda Galaxy that sits within its boundaries. And as you're looking at this star pattern right here, this is the Andromeda Galaxy. So when can you see Andromeda? It's best seen in the northern hemisphere during the autumn months, and the best way to look for it is to find the Great Square of Pegasus. If you want to learn more about that constellation, go see the Pegasus video, click on that link. And then Pegasus and Andromeda share a star, so that's how they're always connected. So if you can find Pegasus, you can definitely find Andromeda. The Andromeda Galaxy is one of the coolest things to see in the autumn sky because it looks like a little fuzzy patch of light, and you can see it with the unaided eye if you live in an area that has little light pollution. This is the oldest light that you can see with the unaided eye because it takes 2.5 million years for that light to reach us. It is the most distant object that you can see with the visible eye. Now, there's also a few versions of this star pattern. When I was growing up and looking at my books throughout time, this is the constellation pattern that I see often, and I still see Andromeda depicted like this. And I'm okay with it in the sense that these are the stars that you can see most easily when you're looking for this constellation. So for a shape, I would say it's kind of like a curved letter V. So that's the pattern that I look for in the sky, and the strategy I use to find Andromeda Galaxy, I learned this from another stargazer, is you start at this head star right here, you count 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, and that's how you can find the Andromeda Galaxy. And later in this video, I'll give you some other strategies on how to find Andromeda too. This is also the other star pattern. This is the official star pattern of Andromeda, and it resembles more of a human figure. So this would be the head of Andromeda, this would be her torso, her arms, this is where she would be chained to the rock, and then here are her legs. So one thing to keep in mind is that there are a variety of different star patterns. However, this is the one recognized by the International Astronomical Union. But as you look at other resources, you may see this pattern as well. Now let's review the star pattern that Andromeda makes across the sky. Here we have the official star map released by the International Astronomical Union. And as I said earlier, it's represented as a chained woman, and it's classified as a seasonal constellation. So when you're looking at this star map, there's a few things that should stand out. One is this little red object right here, and that's the Andromeda Galaxy. Here you can see I oriented this picture to show you how it mirrors the star map right here. So here you would have the head, this is her torso, here is the arm where she is chained to the rock, and right here as well. And then here are her legs right there. The other thing I want you to notice is Cassiopeia right here, because Cassiopeia can be used to guide you towards the Andromeda Galaxy. One part of this pattern almost looks like an arrow that can guide you right down to the Andromeda Galaxy, and if you draw a straight line through the beta star of Andromeda, that will take you to the Triangulum Galaxy, situated in the constellation of Triangulum. So let's get some practice with looking for this constellation and see if you can point out the pattern. So here we have a picture. So what stands out to you in these pictures? First, you can see the brightest stars are right here. This is the alpha, beta, and gamma stars of this constellation. And then this little fuzzy patch of light, that's the Andromeda Galaxy right there. And if we were to point out the star pattern for Andromeda, this is the version I grew up knowing, where it kind of looks like this slanted letter V. And this is kind of the pattern you're most likely to see in the sky, especially if you have any type of light pollution in the sky. But then here again is that alternate pattern of Andromeda. So if we're going to get a little bit more practice here, okay, so there's quite a few constellations in this picture, and the one that I notice the most would be Cassiopeia. And this is a slightly grainy photo, but we can still work with it. But right here, this is Cassiopeia. So you can use this little arrow part of Cassiopeia to guide you down towards Andromeda. And can you find that fuzzy patch of light? So if we were to point everything out here, this is Cassiopeia. Use that little arrow to aim you down towards Andromeda Galaxy. And then here is Andromeda. There's a few other constellations as well. There's Perseus, which is right here. You can see Triangulum right there. That's kind of an easy little triangle to point out in the sky. We also have Aries. No, oops, no, I'm incorrect. This is still Perseus. Aries is down here. And then here you can see part of Pegasus. That's two of the stars of the Great Square of Pegasus. And then here's another great diagram. This is one that, you know, the stars have been digitally enhanced so you can see it a little bit better, but it gives you an idea of where everything is that surrounds Andromeda. So you have Pegasus down here, Cepheus right here, Cassiopeia, Perseus, and Triangulum, and then down here would be Aries, which is not labeled. The jewel of the autumn sky really is the Andromeda Galaxy, and here you can see this gorgeous picture of the Andromeda Galaxy and a few of the satellite galaxies that it has. In fact, Andromeda has 15 different satellite galaxies that are moving around this larger galaxy, and Andromeda Galaxy is considered one of the sister galaxies to our own Milky Way galaxy. And in fact, we will eventually collide with that galaxy some 2.5 million years from now. But what I want to do is get a little bit of practice with how to find Andromeda in the sky and what to look for. So here is a gorgeous picture, and I love it because there's quite a few things to see here. One of the first things that my eye is drawn to is the Milky Way galaxy right here. This is our own home Milky Way galaxy. Another feature I see is this cone of light that's coming off the horizon, and that's known as zodiacal light. If you want to know more about a zodiacal light, go see that video. I can also see the Pleiades very clearly. I can see Orion, and then I use the belt stars to point down towards Sirius, which is the brightest star in the night sky. But we're trying to focus on Andromeda. So for me, I'm struggling to find Andromeda, but the thing that stands out to me is Andromeda Galaxy, which is this little fuzzy patch of light right here. It's a spiral little galaxy. Well, I shouldn't call it little because it is huge. It's twice the size of the Milky Way galaxy. But you can see that disc-like shape right there. And from there, I start to point out some of the other constellations. But before I even point out Andromeda, which is in this region, I can see Pegasus, the Great Square of Pegasus right here. And then there I can find Andromeda because it is attached to Pegasus. So that's a great picture to help you just learn where everything is in the sky, and it has a really wide view so you can see a lot. Here's another similar picture that can be seen. Here we have the Milky Way, and my eyes are drawn immediately to this little disk, which is the Andromeda Galaxy. I have a few other pictures that we can use for practice. Here it's super obvious where the Andromeda Galaxy is, right there. And then my strategy to find it, here is that V-shaped pattern that I'm tracing out right here. That's Andromeda. But the strategy I use to find it is you start with the first star of Andromeda, count 1, 2, 3, then 1, 2, 3, and you should try to find that little fuzzy patch. Here's one more version I have of Andromeda for you to practice with. The thing that stands out, of course, is the Andromeda Galaxy, but you can also see another galaxy, the triangular one. So here's Andromeda, and here is the V-shaped pattern right there of Andromeda. And if you draw a line through the Beta star downwards, that's a triangulum galaxy, and this is the constellation known as Triangulum. Both of these are ancient constellations. So use Andromeda Galaxy to help you find the Triangulum galaxy, and of course you would need a really dark area sky to be able to see these features as well. So I encourage you to seek out those dark skies. Try to find a place away from light pollution so some of these features of the night sky can be pointed out. And if we were to point out Andromeda, this is a picture that was given to me by a friend, David Cocklin. Some of his photos are pictured in this presentation, and you can see when his computer plots this out, this is the pattern he's given for Andromeda. So just another example of how many variety of star patterns you can see depending upon the source that you are working with. Here, of course, is Triangulum, and you can see both galaxies right here. Now we'll examine a legend of Andromeda that's associated with this pattern of stars. And remember, there is no one true constellation story for any pattern, as the legends of the stars vary depending upon the culture, time, and place. So I mentioned before that Greek myth about the chained maiden, and there's a story that goes along with this, and I've heard many variations, but here's kind of the general overview of this story, and it's about a whole family. So the queen, back in Greek ancient times, Queen Cassiopeia, she boasted of her beauty. Some say they boasted of her daughter's beauty, but I've most often heard that Queen Cassiopeia boasted of her own beauty, and this angered the Nereids, and they were companions of Poseidon. They were sea nymphs. This upset them, so they told Poseidon, and Poseidon decided to send Cetus. He was a sea monster, and he was sent to just ravage the coastland. King Cepheus, who was married to the queen, consulted an oracle, and they advised both the king and the queen to sacrifice their daughter in order to stop the devastation. So Andromeda was chained to a rock and to be sacrificed to Cetus. However, Perseus was nearby, and he heard Andromeda. And Perseus is the Greek figure that slew Medusa, and Medusa was the one that, if she looked at you, you would turn to stone. So he used the head of Medusa to turn Cetus into stone. Now, of course, there are so many variations on this story. Remember that the mythologies of the stars vary according to time, place, and culture. There is no one true mythology for any constellation, just a variety of them. We've come to the end of our video about Andromeda, so let's review everything we've learned so far. It's best seen in the autumn months and is classified as a seasonal constellation. The best way to find it is to look for the Great Square of Pegasus. The star of Alpheratz is the alpha star of Andromeda, and the celestial objects you want to try to find are the Andromeda Galaxy, which is the oldest light you can see with the naked eye. There are a variety of patterns that are associated with Andromeda. This pattern right here is really just a marking of the stars that stand out the most with Andromeda. However, the official star map pattern from the International Astronomical Union is listed here. So I hope this was helpful for you to find Andromeda and get a little bit of background on this constellation and use those different strategies I taught you in order to find the Andromeda Galaxy. Remember, if you are trying to find the Andromeda Galaxy and you're looking at this V shape right here, start at Alpheratz, count 1, 2, 3, then jump over 1, 2, 3, and that's how you can find the Andromeda Galaxy. I wish you luck trying to find this constellation. Remember, it takes time, practice, and patience, and dark skies in order to find the star patterns. Remember, keep going outside, look up, and share what you have learned with others. Take care. I'd like to send a huge thank you and shout out to David Cocklin for allowing me to use his amazing photos for this video. Be sure to check him out on Twitter.